Hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here, and in another unscheduled break from our usual content, I am going to get to the pre-coronation magazines, but things just keep coming out that I feel like I have to address first. So what we're looking at today is going to be a Camilla Tominey article, a great favourite on this channel, Camilla Tominey. So this is an article from The Telegraph, which came out 3 days ago, and it says this is the title: "The Sussexes are frazzled, fraught and lacking romance." And what I want to do today is we're going to do a kind of deep dive into the language and the gaslighting. We're going to go all the way through this article. So if you're interested in that, please watch on. Okay, so the title I've just read: "The Sussexes are frazzled, fraught and lacking romance, like any couple with young kids." 5 years after their wedding, the omens are bad as Harry and Meghan seem to be heading in different directions. Okay, so first of all, let's just analyse. I can't really start without getting into the premise. The Sussexes are frazzled, fraught and lacking romance. And that's a really weird and manipulative thing to say. This woman, Camilla Tominey, although she has an obsessive interest in the inner workings of that couple, is not part of that relationship. She never has been part of that relationship. And I know she feels close to Harry. I believe as a journalist she had some sort of dealings with the royals and with Harry, but she doesn't seem to understand, just on a personal level, that she was just a member of the press. And I think a lot of them feel like this. I think that in their minds, I think they were kind of little people that felt like, oh, proximity to the royals gave them a bit of power and we're their friends kind of thing. And I think it's difficult for them to understand that even the royals that might be being complicit and working with them are only doing it because they're in some sort of horrible hostage situation, right? And I'm not saying that to excuse the royals that are doing that, but if you look at interviews with people like Charles, like when they leave his microphone on, the royals think of these people like, I was going to say like rats or cockroaches or something, but it's not that. It's more, they see them as dangerous people that they have to appease because these people have the power to turn the country against them. And I genuinely think some of these people are just completely oblivious to the fact that that's their role. That's what the royals think of them. Regardless of whether or not they might be working with you, it is a means to an end for the royals, right? And part of the system and the contract. So the whole lacking romance thing makes me really angry because that is not an appropriate comment to make about somebody else's relationship, is it at all? And we can talk about how, you know, we've spoken before on this channel about the PR of William and Kate's relationship and how they are presented in the media. But I don't think that it would be any of our place to actually talk about the actual state of that marriage and that relationship because we're not in it. Like, we've got no idea. And even if we had those ideas and we had speculation, which is fine, are we getting paid to write an article claiming that a relationship we're not part of is lacking romance? Like, what's that about? And again, I think it ties into racism. I'm not directly calling her a racist. I'm saying that it ties into racism because this is what people want. People do not want the fact that Harry is a white prince. He's gone for a mixed race woman, right? A black woman. They really, really wanted 5 years on for this relationship to be done, for Harry to have to come crawling back, you know, oh, I did wrong, you know, how could I ever have trusted her? He was supposed to have learned his lesson, she was supposed to have been destroyed and left on her own and completely monstered, and they were supposed to have got their white prince back. But it's the 5-year anniversary and they are still together. In the face, I might add, of a smear campaign against this couple, unlike anything I've seen before against a couple in the media. So even though the facts are against them, if you actually look at it from a distance, a couple going through that level of smear campaign, that level of difficulty together, and still being together, right, maintaining their bond and their union, does that sound like lacking romance to you? Because to me, that sounds like a couple that are dedicated to the growth of each other, to their growth as a couple and individually, and who are not going to be bullied out of that love. Because essentially, this is what they don't want to think about, and it's true, whether they like it or not. Harry got to a point where he left that family for Meghan, and they'll spin it as if, oh, Meghan was a witch and she was abusing him, she was alienating him, she was feeding him lies. But essentially what they cannot stand is the fact that this white prince that they thought they owned fell in love with her and loved her enough, and she loved him enough to say, no, we're going to stand up for ourselves, we're going to have boundaries, and you know what, we're taking ourselves away. And it drives them crazy. They're so angry about it, which is why you keep seeing these manufactured articles about how unhappy their marriage is because they're so angry. They are so angry that they haven't managed to break up that couple. Also, right, that extra bit, like any couple with young kids, it's very deceptive because it's almost put in there like a sort of, but I'm not saying anything bad. I'm saying that's like any couple with young kids. Where's your article about William and Kate then? We'll get into this here, and I'm not trying to get into their relationship personally. It's not my right. But they're not held to the same standards, are they? Because are William and Catherine a affectionate seeming couple? And I'm not saying that means they don't love each other. They're in a public role. I don't know their relationship, and we are not seeing their full relationship. We don't know it. But they're not under the same level of scrutiny. Kate goes off and does her early years work. William's doing things on his own. We've got William openly telling the papers, and this are his actual quotes, that he hopes that Kate doesn't get broody, and he's worried about that because he doesn't want another child. Which again, might be fine. They might just be happy with 3 kids. But none of that scrutiny. They never write articles about, oh, are they now lacking romance? Are they breaking up? Is it a very cold relationship? Like any couple with young kids. Where were these articles? They've got young kids. William and Catherine have got young kids. So where's your article about them? Them being frazzled, fraught, and lacking romance. Okay, 5 years after their wedding, the omens are bad. What do you mean the omens are bad? Like, it contradicts itself anyway. It's just trying to cover itself. Like, oh, they're frazzled like any couple with young kids, but also the omens are bad. So what are you trying to say? Like, at least say it with your whole chest. Like, I know what Camilla Tominey wants to say here. Just be brave enough to say it. That's what I can't stand about some of these people, because they'll try and pretend it's respectable. They'll have an opinion and they'll kind of back out a bit. Like, oh, but I'm just reporting on it. Just say what you think. In fact, I'd respect you more if you did. Okay, Harry and Meghan seem to be heading in different directions. This is just what they wish for. This is what they desperately wish for, and they desperately want the public to think that's what's happening. Because it can't be, again, that the public see what's happened here and think they've actually won. They've actually got together. Love has won in this situation. They've got their family. They are protecting their family. They are receiving a lot of abuse right now. But the love of that family has kept them together. That cannot be the narrative. And also, I'm sorry, it's creepy. It's really, really creepy. And I've said this before specifically about Camilla Tominey. And the way she talks about Harry, like there's kind of ownership of Harry. That needs to be explored. Like, some of these people speak like they own him, and I'm not sure quite what that means to them. I can't even untangle that. But it's really weird. They speak like something has been taken from them. They follow his life like it's their business, like they're looking at bad omens. Like, even the very thought of that. Why is that? First of all, that's not in the public interest, is it? That's not journalism. And second of all, like, why do you care? Like, why do you care? And these people are so obvious. Because they might turn around and say, oh, we're just worried about Harry. No, that is not true. Think about it like this. If they were actually worried about Harry, I've said this before, if they really thought that Meghan was this awful human being, then they would be advocating for the children. They would be advocating for Harry. They would not be hating on Harry and his family, would they? It's hard to believe that 5 years ago today, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle rode through the streets of Windsor in an Ascot Landau carriage, cheered by adoring crowds on their wedding. At the time, household staff weren't entirely confident the relationship would go the distance. No one could see it lasting longer than 3 years, according to one insider. Yet, as the couple celebrate their wood anniversary, Harry and Meghan have proved their doubters wrong. It's hard to believe that 5 years ago today. Okay, being generous, I kind of understand in the sense that, they've ended up in a very different place, to where people might have thought they would be. But it does feel like gaslighting, because it's bringing up, all the cheering, adoring crowds that there were and everything, and it feels like it's undermining, right? It's setting up a story that they were so loved, and, nothing was wrong in Britain. They didn't really receive any hatred. People loved them. And then they went and did this, and now people hate them. Like, it's so hard to understand why they've done this to themselves. That's the kind of narrative that's getting pushed in the background here. At the time, household staff weren't entirely confident the relationship would go the distance. No one could see it lasting longer than 3 years, according to one insider. That sounds a little racist to me. I'm not saying it is for sure, but why is that? Why did so many people... Seriously, why did so many people say, I don't think that's going to last? That's not going to work. And if it's not racist, if it's just a statement of fact, if it's just thinking they're very different from different backgrounds, then that in itself is acknowledging that the system is racist and classist, right? And that Harry being with someone like Meghan was going to cause difficulty in the system. So that's a kind of admission in itself. The idea as well, how household staff weren't entirely confident. What sort of household was this? It makes me think of, when Diana was kind of married into the family. And she felt like they were kind of conspiring against her because the people in her household or around her, they knew they had to defer to Charles. So they would kind of gaslight her over Camilla, you know? So she would she knew something was wrong, but the household staff knew the hierarchy and they weren't really on her side. According to one insider, these are the sort of people that work for that family, and these are the sort of people that Meghan and Harry were around. Again, it's an accidental admission from Camilla Tominey in this article that the environment they were in was toxic, because people who were insiders and close to them in their household were rooting for them to fail and briefing to the tabloids. And yet, as the couple celebrate their wood anniversary, Harry and Meghan have proved their doubters wrong. And I can feel the bitterness in that, but there's also some sarcasm, right? There's also a sense of, but there's still time, right? It's excitedly saying, well, they're still going for now, but maybe we can break them down enough that we can still do this. While their relationships with their own families might not be what they once were, the marriage appears to be going strong, despite the couple's outwardly diverging priorities. Now, this is so weird and contradictory, and I'm sure that she's saying these things so that if someone calls her out and says, why are you writing these weird things about, bad omens and different directions? She'll say, oh, but I also said, it appears they're going strong. They're just like any other couple. It's really deniable. But it's weird. Why is she saying bad omens in the air? And then she's saying, oh, but it appears that they're going strong. Also, despite the couple's outwardly diverging priorities. And look, that's just healthy. What they are referring to as outwardly, diverging priorities. If they're referring to the fact that sometimes Meghan does her own thing and sometimes Harry does his own thing, that is called a healthy relationship between adults. That is encouraging each other to have your own interests and develop as a person so that you come together as two healed and healthy people and you grow together, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be constantly joined at the hip all the time. It's healthy for a couple to be able to be apart sometimes. That's just common sense here, right? Okay, the Duchess once described them as moving together like salt and pepper, but they seem to be heading in opposite directions. Meghan looking forward while Harry dwells on the past. The extraordinary events of this week, with the couple claiming they'd been involved in a near-catastrophic car chase at the hands of a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi in New York, seem to expose a chasm between her desire for fame and Harry's quest for privacy. What a paragraph. Okay, the Duchess once described them as moving together like salt and pepper, so the use of once suggesting that that's no longer the case. They seem to be heading in opposite directions, and again, they're going to keep saying these things, but it doesn't make sense. So Kate is often pictured on her own, doing her early years work, right? They're not an affectionate couple. They don't show the same physical affection that Harry and Meghan do, and maybe that's just them as a couple. But where are all those think pieces? You can't tell me that this isn't just PR. This is just PR for the royals, essentially. When we think about the rumours flying around about William and Kate, which I'm not going to talk about because it is gossip and I don't know if it's true or not. But what we do know is these sort of rumours about their relationship have been going around in the top circles, right? It's known about, people have spoken about these things and then deleted their tweets. People like Camilla Tominey, when these things came out, didn't start investigating it for bad omens, right? They didn't. They just did not do that because they're working as PR. If this was genuinely journalism for the people, and for some reason she felt like this was something that people needed to know, then where's that level of scrutiny for Charles and Camilla and for William and Kate? It doesn't exist. Okay, also, Meghan looking forward while Harry dwells on the past, and this is so victim blamey, and this is what we're going to see a lot, and it doesn't surprise me because the people who write for these papers, I believe, have very abusive mindsets, very toxic mindsets, and they don't understand growth, boundaries, consent. So the idea of Harry as an abuse victim dwelling on the past. Now, I'm sure this is something that if you've been abused, if you're a survivor, if you're from a minority group, you've been oppressed in some way, then something that's going to happen to you a lot is there's never going to be the right time to talk about it, right? Basically, that's the trick. There's no perfect victim and there's no right way to talk about it. Because whenever you do, you're basically going to be told to shut up again. So wanting justice, right, when an injustice has been done to you, does not make you a negative person. It doesn't mean that you're dwelling on the past. And in fact, it's really healthy, in our own minds, as long as we're not consumed by it, to look at your past so that you can grow, especially if we've been traumatized or hurt in our young years. To move forward, you need to reparent your inner child. And it's completely normal and adult, in fact, to want some accountability and to set your own boundaries. Yet they are repeatedly portraying Harry as this negative, dwelling in the past person. And that is a threat to every single abuse victim. And it does not surprise me that this is coming from Camilla Tominey and her magazine or her publication, because they do not seem to like it when people have healthy boundaries, right? They seem to live in a world where they cut their empathy for the sake of journalism, right? Oh, it doesn't matter, it's just journalism, it doesn't care. Whereas what Harry is doing is he's saying, no, real people are involved, right? This is actual real people. These are actual real lives, and what you're doing is not harmless. So of course the papers are going to be consistently trying to present him as much as they can, especially because he's taken them to court, as someone who's just negative. You know, if you're someone who's called out racism, if you're someone who's called out abuse, you will get reframed as the negative, toxic person, when actually what you're doing, it's a sign that you're more healthy, usually, well, depending on what you do with it, but it's a sign of maturity. Right, that is a sign of maturity, and these people don't get that because they themselves are not mature. Also, Meghan looking forward while Harry dwells on the past. They don't know anything about how either of those people are dealing with their situations. They just don't know. They're speculating from the outside. Oh, Meghan's looking forward. Harry's stuck in the past. And again, the kind of implication is that Meghan, social climber, she's always going onwards. She doesn't think about the past. And Harry, negative Harry, always bringing the mood down. You know, he can't get over the past. You know, what a snowflake. Also, you know, they're claiming they had been involved in a near catastrophic car chase at the hands of a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi. I went through that in my last video. The things they have said in their statement have been completely blown out of proportion by the media, so they can then attack them and humiliate them, even though that is not what they said. I go through the whole statement in, I think it's my last video I put out, so, you know, look for that if you want to. Okay, but it seems to expose a chasm between her desire for fame and Harry's quest for privacy. Now, this is really interesting, because again, when Kate Middleton does her early years work, when she is pictured as the main royal, because they kind of use her instead of Charles and Camilla, right? They don't use William. I don't know where William's at. They don't talk about it ever as her desire for fame, right? As her desire to be like the main feature. They don't talk about it in those terms. You know, if Meghan was doing these things, they would absolutely spin it as some sort of narcissistic ego thing. But Kate does it and it's wholesome, right? It's always humble, even though they openly say that she keeps rebranding herself. You know, Meghan's desire for fame. It's like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing, isn't it? It's saying that, look, all along, she's just wanted fame. She didn't care about Harry. She's just using Harry. She just wants the fame and, you know. But then they don't talk about the fact that she's actually, every single time they project this image onto her, right? Oh, what's she going to do for the coronation? She did nothing. She didn't post anything, and it was her right if she wanted to anyway. You know, it would have been fine if she did, but she didn't. She had a quiet birthday with Archie. She didn't cause any sort of scene. She did nothing like that. But no, she's really interested in fame. And let's also look at it like this. I'm not guessing at Kate Middleton here, but I'm just saying in the difference in the way it's reported. Meghan was already famous, right, before she met Harry. She was already an actress. You know, she'd already done a lot of speaking work. She was established, right? When Kate married William, was she established, or did she kind of immediately get catapulted into that spotlight? And I'm not saying that necessarily in a negative way, but isn't it interesting that out of those two figures, they're presenting Meghan as this sort of power-hungry gold digger when she already had her own career. She already had that stuff going. Did Kate have that stuff going? You know, in terms of a trajectory here, and let's be honest, in terms of media treatment, if Meghan was this, like, mastermind, why would there be a smear campaign against her? Who's getting all the positive coverage? Kate. And how do they think that's happening? I don't know why I'm saying how do they think that's happening. They know why that's happening because they're part of it. Amid much talk of a Meganaissance, I guarantee no one uses that word. That's just another one of those things that Camilla Tominey is hoping becomes a thing. Meghan, 41, initially appeared to bathe in the flashbulbs as she made her first official public appearance since the coronation at the Women of Vision Awards. Dressed in a 105,000 gold Johanna Oritz dress, they've got like 1,000 Tom Ford shoes and a £1,900 bag. As she collected her award, she told those present, "You can be the visionary of your own life." Okay, look at this. Initially appeared to bathe in the flashbulbs. Victim blaming. It's just victim blaming, right? If you look at this in terms of like a sexual assault case, they'll say, oh, this person flirted. This person was loving the attention. Now, the problem was never the attention necessarily. The problem was when the consent got overridden, right? When the boundaries were in place and people crossed the boundaries. Now, remember, Meghan and Harry's issue was not that they went to the event and had photographs taken at the event. People worry me as well. People actually scare me with the way they talk about this. Because what does that mean for them and consent in their own lives and what they understand of it? Because there is a difference between being photographed at the event and then being hounded afterwards for 2 hours with people trying to take photographs where they're literally trying to like to get pictures of you in your car against your consent. You know, they're using it, oh, she bathed in the flashbulbs, as if, you know, oh, you know, the person who got assaulted flirted earlier in the evening. It makes no difference because there's a line, right? There's boundaries and there is consent. When people withdraw their consent, you stop. Right, we all understand that. And it's also interesting because they're like, oh, she was bathing in the flashbulb, she's so dramatic, she loves the attention. And then they have to admit that it was her actual first official public appearance since the coronation. So she's not really been out there bathing in flashbulbs, has she? And then they mentioned the clothes she was wearing, you know, the expense of the things she was wearing. And look, I'm a socialist, so I don't like the idea of extreme wealth. And do I like that? No, I don't. But how often do they do this with Kate? How often do they do this with Camilla? And here's the thing where I feel like racism plays into this as well. Because it's almost like some of these people who, I mean, Camilla Tominey writes for the Telegraph, right? It's often called the Tory graph. They have no issue with people having extreme wealth, right? That's not a problem for them. Where do they draw the line? When it's a self-made black woman. That is where they have their issue. And to me, that is weird and inconsistent. Because for me, I've told you my biases. I try and be consistent on this. I don't think that, you know, extreme wealth is great. I don't like it. But they only have an issue when Meghan does it. That's very interesting to me. Like, why is that? Is she not meant to have that in your mind? Why, to you, is that something that stands out? You know, because these people obviously read it as wrong. And I honestly think in some ways they resent it. I do think that. I think that some white women, not saying necessarily Camilla Tominey, some racist white women see a woman of colour succeeding in that world that they desperately want to be in, and they think they shouldn't have that. How can they have that? When I'm a white woman, I'm meant to be above them. I honestly feel like that's the vibe. Okay, there's then a picture with the caption, "The Duke felt he and his wife were targeted by photographers in New York." They've chosen a picture of Meghan looking really beautiful. She's smiling, she's holding Harry's hand. I think this picture is deliberate. I think it's meant to be like, oh look, Meghan was loving it, she was posing. Yeah, this was when they were outside the event. This was not when they were being, you know, followed in the car. Also, the Duke felt he and his wife were targeted. No, they were. We know that. Like, why is that even he felt? We know that the paparazzi were following them. We know that the Duke felt. The couple say that after the event, they were subjected to a 2-hour relentless pursuit by a gang of at least 6 paparazzi. New York City authorities have stated that although photographers made their journey challenging, there were no reported collisions, summonses, injuries, or arrests. Right, if you look at my last video, and again, Camilla knows this. It's the Archie's a voracious reader thing again, isn't it? She knows full well. She knows that in their statement, they say it was a near catastrophic incident, as in it was dangerous, it was against consent. We've got people, you know, putting humanity aside to get a picture. It was potentially a dangerous situation. So now coming up and saying, oh, but nobody was hurt. Yeah, they said it was near, and they said that it was a possibility that someone could get hurt. So, I mean, she knows what she's doing. She knows full well what she's doing. It's so obvious. Okay, in pictures of the couple leaving the event, Harry's discomfort was etched on his face as he used his phone to film the action from the back seat. And again, this is a kind of lifeline for Harry that you will see with people like Camilla Tominey, because they have, with Harry, they've got this narrative, I think, that he can still come back. Like, if he turns on Meghan, she's the bad one, really. And, okay, maybe he was feeling discomfort, you know, maybe he didn't like it. He's a bad boy, but he can still come back. Whereas you've got Meghan basking in the flashbulbs, you know, it's this idea that Meghan's using Harry. Meghan's masterminded all of it. The Duke is already trying to reform the British press in his late mother's memory, describing it as his life's work in an interview with ITV's Tom Bradbury in January. He is currently waging 4 separate legal battles against 3 different newspaper groups over illegal information gathering, phone hacking, and a story he claimed to be libellous. He is also suing the Home Office over the removal of his taxpayer-funded security and the Metropolitan Police's refusal to allow him to pay for close personal protection while in the UK. The Duke is already trying to reform the British press in his late mother's memory. Yeah, so you guys better watch out. Like, she's nervous. She's nervous about this. He's also suing the Home Office over the removal of his taxpayer-funded security and the Met Police's refusal to let him pay for his own protection. Right. That, like, is anyone with a brain reading this? So he can't win. So he's not getting it, like, taxpayer funded. Fine. Like, he said, okay, I just want my family to be safe. How about I pay for it with my own money? Let's not forget, Harry and Meghan paid back the taxpayer money that they used on their house, I believe, right? And yet they are, you know, presented, oh, they're there to grab our money. They are not using our taxpayer money. The other royals, the working royals, are all doing that. They're all doing that. But the idea is that he can't have protection. So this is a man who was born into this situation against his will, who has actually faced genuine threats, right? We know this. But he's bad because, first of all, he wants our money, but then he wants to pay for it himself. You know, he's a difficult, dangerous person. Like, how are people so twisted that they read that and don't think that's weird, that's bad? The events of this week raise questions over whether the couple will extend their campaign for privacy to the US. Okay, this makes me angry. Campaign for privacy. They have never, right? They've never said that they want to be hermits and never be seen in public again. And nor should they have to, right? They have gone through trauma and abuse and a smear campaign. It's not that they have to give up any voice they have or not do the things they want to do because they're being bullied by people, right? Like, it's not the end of their lives. Like, I know some of these people think that this royal family thing is the end of their lives. It is not. They've got lives ahead of them that are entirely separate. The campaign for privacy is always used as a stick to beat them with. It's like, oh, but they went out in public. I thought they wanted privacy. People scare me because it's consent, right? They say they understand that there's interest in them. That's fine. But please don't put people in danger. Please have some respect and some boundaries. Please understand basic consent here. And the fact these people don't get that is terrifying, right? Because children understand this, and essentially it's what they do to abuse victims as well. It's, oh, you don't want to get abused, then stay at home. Stay at home, never talk about it. Like, you know, don't go out, don't make yourself a target. I thought you didn't want to be abused. No. That is victim blaming, and that's abusive. That's really bad. Okay, however, questions have been raised over how such a campaign sits with the Duchess's plans to build her global enterprise. Questions have been raised by who? By who? She keeps trying to distance herself. Just say it. Like, if you believe it, just say it. The privacy campaign that doesn't exist, it is about consent, harassment, and press intrusion, right? That's the campaign. But apparently, the questions about how does that sit with the Duchess's plans to build her global enterprise? Well, like, how is that even a question for people? Right, it was Meghan supposed to, and I don't even know why I'm asking this, because this is exactly what they wanted. Meghan was supposed to be so shamed and humiliated and destroyed, right, that her life was supposed to be over, right? She was supposed to never work again. She was supposed to never show her face again. If she did, they wanted her to be humiliated, right? Desperate. That was her punishment. They are so angry that she's continuing with her life, right? Oh, she wants to build her global enterprise when she was supposed to be humiliated. Like, do these people not understand? Like, the royal family, they might worship the royals. Meghan doesn't do that. Like, Meghan doesn't. She has a life outside of that family. They all do. They all have a life outside of that. Meghan signed with a leading global talent agency in April amid talk of more content creation, a Dior clothing deal, and a revamp of her defunct lifestyle blog, The Tig. Like, sorry, like, she was just supposed to just never do anything again now. Right? That's what you want from her, your victim, right? You guys wanted her to be so humiliated that she didn't do anything successful again. She doesn't follow her own passions, because this was never just about getting rid of her, because she's gone. Meghan's gone. Now, that should have been the end of it, but this is a hate campaign. This is ongoing. This is abuse and this is humiliation, because Meghan is not part of that. She's not. She's not interfered in it. She's not done any of that. She did nothing when it came to the coronation, but she's not allowed to continue her own life. She's not allowed to continue her lifestyle blog, which she started long before any of this. What harm can a lifestyle blog do? You know, and this is what it means in abuse. It's about power and control. She's not allowed to continue with her life. She's supposed to be completely obliterated. She's supposed to have nothing left in her life. And also, you know, content creation and a clothing deal. Kate Middleton is openly branding herself right now. They praise it. She's openly branding herself. And they're so angry. They're so angry that she's signed with a talent agency. They're furious, but there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing they can do about it. Okay, given this potential conflict, there's no conflict. Like, there is no conflict. It is little wonder, then, that the couple have cut quite separate figures lately. Again, Catherine and William. Like, come on now. With Harry travelling alone to the coronation on May the 6th, leaving Meghan in Montecito with their 2 children, Archie, who turned 4 that day, and Lilibet, who turns 2 next month. Wow, what a mystery about the separate figures they've cut. It's not a mystery. Like, stop trying. It's I have to try and stay calm, but they know what they're doing. This is not stupidity, right? I can understand stupidity. I can understand, but they know what they're doing. It's so manipulative. We know exactly why he went to the coronation on his own, because it was Archie's birthday. It was Archie's birthday, so Meghan stayed with their son. Harry did his duty by his father, then he went back. And they're using that. They're using that as if, oh, what a terrible, terrible rift. But on the day, weren't they saying, oh, she's in control of him because he's flying back immediately. He's going back immediately to them. Like, do these people, what are their relationships like? Like, and it's so toxic. Do they think that a couple has to be together all the time? Like, is that what they think? It's really worrying. The last time the Sussexes were photographed together in public was at a basketball game in Los Angeles last month, where they missed the opportunity to smooch on the kiss cam that pans in on couples in the stands. Some took the normally tactile couple's reluctance as a sign all might not be well between them after Meghan's absence from Harry's promotional book tour fueled split rumours. And this is actually kind of funny, because I have seen that footage at the basketball game. And I'm just going to say that underneath this paragraph, they've put a video of it, and it's called Meghan Swerves Kiss from Harry. That is not what happens in the video. I've looked at the video. Their body language is extremely close. They are, and again, like, it's not my business, but they are coupled in, right? They're laughing at something together. They're leaning in, they're having jokes. We never see that from William and Catherine, and I'm not judging their relationship. But how on earth do you look at that? The closeness of that, physically the closeness of that, and then act like, oh, but that's bad omens. But William and Kate, they're going so strong. Occasionally, they accidentally make eye contact. Like, they're so in love. And also, like, swerve to kiss. There was no swerved kiss. Like, it wasn't like no one went in for a kiss and it was swerved. Like, that's not what happened. And maybe, like, again, it's consent. Maybe this couple as well. Like, also, and I feel it's none of my business, you know, why they didn't kiss, why they didn't even have to kiss, they were just on the screen. But also, like, one of them could have been ill, didn't fancy a kiss at the time, they were eating something. Also, have they considered that maybe this couple that are so hounded all the time, right, who get told that when they do show affection, oh, they're showing people up, oh, look, all the tabloids are all over it. Maybe they didn't want to perform in that moment for the public. Maybe they're done with performing affection to people. Right? Maybe that's not what they're about. You know, like, it's just so twisted because they're trying to convince everyone, like the Emperor's New Clothes, that is a close couple. If you saw that clip, it's like they're trying to brainwash everyone. No, it's a terrible relationship. It's evil. She's evil. They don't get on, you know. How can it possibly work, those two from such different worlds? Like, no, they look fine. They look absolutely fine. Okay, Meghan's absence from Harry's promotional book tour fueled split rumours. No. Okay, so again, they are much smarter than the tabloids give them credit for, right? And that's why they're so angry, because they're always a few steps ahead of the tabloids. I'm sorry, but they are. If Meghan had gone on the book tour, there were already people saying that Meghan's making him write it. Meghan's controlling him, she's doing this. But instead, they are two individuals. Now remember, Harry goes to therapy. I believe Meghan has done therapy. These are people who are trying to work on their mental health, and they will know, because they've done therapy, that you're two separate people that come together because you love each other, and that's your union, right? This was Harry's story. And Meghan probably, I'm just guessing, but she probably realised that if she went, she would become the story, and also it might take something from Harry, because this is about his life. You know, he's giving his story, it's his moment to tell his story. And again, that's really interesting because they present her as this narcissist that wants control of everything. If she was that person, wouldn't she have been there, right? Wouldn't she have been acting like, oh, it was all my doing, like, I rescued him, I did this? No. She gave him his moment. He had his moment. That's his story. It fueled split rumours. That's ridiculous. Like, why? No, it didn't. You guys just wanted that to be the case. It did not fuel split rumours. The book is about how much Harry loves Meghan, right? You get to the third part of that book, and it's like being with Meghan has helped him heal his own mental health and want to be better and do better. And it's about that love. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how they've even spun that into, oh, maybe they're splitting up. Maybe they're splitting up. Such is their independence from each other that the owner of a leading hotel chain in Montecito recently told the Daily Telegraph that they have a room set aside for Harry where he occasionally stays on his own. Such is their independence from each other. It's called maturity. They're not tied, you know, they're not joined at the hip. But also, right, a leading hotel chain in Montecito recently told the Daily Telegraph, like, first of all, why are you ringing, the Daily Telegraph is ringing up this random hotel, like, oh, give me details, are they staying there, who's in the room, how big's the room? Like, how weird is that? Do these people have no shame? Like, I know they get paid for it, but they are just like weird stalkers. That's so weird. They have a room set aside where he occasionally stays on his own. Now, just using my brain here, it's not my business, but you know, let's think about that. They're both very busy people. They're very high profile people. They travel a lot. They have a lot of projects that they're doing. Maybe it might be that sometimes when Harry's traveling, maybe he doesn't want to wake her up and disturb her. Maybe it's easier to stay there. Like, it's just common sense, right? Why does common sense go out of the window with this couple? The Duke has also been known to stay at the uber-exclusive bungalows when visiting LA, which is a 2-hour drive from the couple's mansion. Like, okay, where's William been staying? Do you want to, like, maybe you could send your people after William? If this is, okay, and fair enough, right. I don't think they should actually do this because they shouldn't be doing this to anyone. But at least be fair in your coverage. Where's William been staying? I want to find out. Don't you? That seems to be his escape place, said a source of the super secretive and selective members club in West Hollywood, which, unlike the Soho House chain, also frequented by the Sussexes, bans journalists from joining. Wow, the super secretive, selective. It's so secretive. They're talking to the Telegraph. The Telegraph's ringing them up. And also his escape place. In the context of Meghan as being, like, dangerous, like, he has to escape her, is interesting. Also, the Soho House chain, it bans journalists from joining. I wonder why. I wonder why it bans you from joining. I mean, it's not like you've been ringing up hotels and trying to get people to, like, sneak you information about people you don't know, is it? A refuge from the rigours of parenting 2 children under 4, Harry has apparently stayed there after attending Barry's boot camp, a high-octane cardio fitness class. Did Barry's boot camp sponsor that line? Join today. At the nearby Beverly Centre, one friend described the couple as, like any parents of such young kids, frazzled. And that's interesting because one friend described, I doubt it's a close friend if they're talking to the Telegraph, and if it is a close friend, then I'm pretty sure these people lied about what they were asking about. Who they were. A refuge from the rigours of parenting 2 children under 4. Like, it's almost like they're setting up like a bad dad narrative as well. I do think they're doing that, and I think they tried that with Archie's birthday. I think they're setting it up so if Harry doesn't do what they want, if this family continues going strong, if they don't break up like they want, which is what they truly want as their aim, then they've got to do something to act like that's not a good family, right? They've got to do it. So they're going to be like, oh, actually, maybe Harry's actually a bad dad. Maybe that's it. Okay, they added, they are really happy together and live this idyllic life in Montecito. Right, so what? So this person, this source you've gone to great trouble to talk to, probably lied to them about who you were. Oh yeah, they're frazzled, and that's your headline. But actually what they're saying is they're actually really happy together and they're living an idyllic life. Why is the headline not Harry and Meghan really happy together, living idyllic life? I wonder. But at the end of the day, they've been through a lot. I think they've both felt quite ground down by it all. They're like any married couple 5 years in. And also, like, the lack of shame these people have. They've been through a lot. Imagine publishing this. Imagine reading Harry's book and lacking the empathy and the insight to think, wait, I'm part of the problem. I'm one of these journalists. Maybe I should stop. They don't think like that. You know, they will literally hear all they've been through and they'll go, right, it's time for me to get onto my secret sources and find out what they're having for dinner or something. Like, look, I think they've both felt quite ground down by it all. She says in an article which is grinding them down. Right, that's the idea. Like, these people are not innocent. They know what they're doing. It's not like they don't know the impact. They are writing about the impact. They enjoy the impact. As a Californian born and bred, Meghan appears more settled than Harry, who, by his own admission, still feels torn by his British ties. Why is it written like that? Like, by his own admission? Oh, he's admitted it. He's admitted he still feels torn. Yeah, like, why are you presenting everything like it doesn't make sense? They keep acting like they've caught him and Meghan out when they're just consistent. They are consistent with their positions, but they always try and spin them as something that doesn't make sense when it does. As he wrote in his book, I love my mother country and I love my family and I always will. Although he has repeatedly spoken of embracing the Santa Barbara lifestyle, it is no secret that the Duke, cut off from his family and many of his friends, is heavily reliant on his wife's social circle. So look, there's also a really big contradiction here, because it's this idea that, oh, he's being abused by Meghan, he's so reliant on the social circle, it's unhealthy. But in the same article, you're talking about how, oh, but they're doing different projects. So which one is it? Like, you're gonna choose? Like, what's the smear today? Or are you leaving your options open? When they first started dating, Harry was Meghan's protector, guiding her through a royal life that was alien to her. And again, that feels sexist to me, right? Because they only have an issue now, right? It's like, oh, you know, Harry was like showing her the way, and it's okay when that was the case. But Meghan, like, helping Harry out, like a woman, like being like a guidance for a man in any way, oh no, like that's wrong. Those gender roles are wrong. That may explain why he's still partially on British time, apparently staying up late into the night gaming. And you've got to laugh. First of all, who's telling them that? Like, who are they talking to? Like, I don't believe any of this. But also, it's that idea that Harry's like a petulant teenager that can still come back, but he's in his rebellious stage. Oh, he's still partially on British time, and that might explain it. I mean, even assuming this is true, which I doubt, right? If you're somebody who's grown up in Britain and your friends are from Britain, I presume that sometimes you're gonna, you know, be on British time so you can keep up with your friends, right? It's not like, it's not everything that gets presented here is presented with this weird negative slant all the time. Yet with many of his old sets still feeling aggrieved, having essentially been ghosted after he married Meghan, patience appears to be wearing thin even among his most stalwart supporters. Okay, so this old set feeling aggrieved. So, and this is something I wanted to say as well. So the old set, let's not forget that Harry was groomed into this role, right? It's a lifestyle. He is kept away from ordinary people. I know Diana tried to make a change there, but you know, he speaks about in his book that he really didn't connect with like ordinary people, not for lack of wanting to, but it was the army that kind of made him realize those kind of things. Like when he talks about in the book, for example, the Nazi costume that William and Kate and him were, you know, kind of finding funny, it wasn't because in that moment they were evil individuals. It was because they'd been grown up in this bubble, especially William and Harry, where they were meant to not see the consequences, right? They were just, to them it was a joke, it wasn't real. It wasn't part of their world. And sending them to these schools, right, these elite schools, and surrounding them with these people from this set is all part of the grooming process. It keeps them in. Right? It means that they're less likely to turn away from the system or ever open their eyes to it. You know, the old set are probably, let's be honest, a lot of Tory, private school, elite boys, right? Probably raised into that set. You know, they talk about being ghosted, you know, after he married Meghan, and you have to ask yourself, you know, why? There's this idea, isn't there, that, oh, Meghan and Harry cut people off, and, you know, oh, it's really bad of them. But no one ever asks, like, no one ever thinks about the fact that Meghan was receiving racism, right? Not necessarily from these people, but they have had to escape. They've had to get away. And I'm saying that if these people were good faith, genuine people, and your friend was going through that on such a public scale, and say your friend found it difficult to keep up with you because of that situation, wouldn't you lend your support? And rather than being like, oh, I've been ghosted, wouldn't you like be like, I completely understand, it's a horrible situation, like I can't imagine the kind of stuff that's happening right now to you. If you need me, here I am. Instead they're talking to the Telegraph, right? These are the sort of people. This is the old set. You know, it's like, oh, Meghan didn't allow him to speak to his friends anymore. That's not what happened, right? Harry speaks in his book about being overjoyed to bring Meghan into his circle and being shocked and dismayed and just devastated that people are seeing something different, right? And it's racism. It's racism, it's classism, it's a load of different things. It's sexism in some ways. But that devastation that he has. Also, let's be completely honest, it's that old sexist thing of, oh, you know, the guy gets married and now he doesn't have time for his mates anymore. And it's like, look, I'm not saying that you don't have fun once you get married, but you reach a level of maturity and you have a family, you have responsibilities. So I'm not sure that Harry's really going to be still, you know, acting like he was when he was younger and, you know, like with the Eton boys and that whole situation. Harry's grown beyond that. That's not Meghan's fault. That's not Meghan's fault, right? That's just him growing up. Okay, one insider explained, nobody really speaks to him anymore, and even the people who've remained by his side have lately begun to fall away because he's so consistently negative. He's often complaining and rarely asks after others. People had stuck with him because they blamed Meghan for isolating him and cutting him off from his friends and family, but he hasn't done anything to help himself. Now they just see him as completely lost. And again, one insider explained, they're not really that close in, are they? If they are speaking, if they're an insider giving stuff to the papers, they're not that close in the group, are they? Let's be honest. Okay, so let's look at the victim blaming here. That him being consistently negative and complaining, right? And again, I said this at the start, this is victim blaming. If you're a genuine friend and your friend is going through trauma and abuse and they're working out stuff from their childhood, you don't do this, right? You don't. You say, I'm here for you if you need me. I wish you well. Like, I hope that your journey is successful, and if I can help you in any way, please let me know. You know, oh, he's often complaining and rarely asks after others. Who's this person? This person is not going to be someone who was a friend of Harry, like a genuine friend. You know, it was a conditional friend, right? Because they're now talking to the Telegraph. It's not rocket science. People had stuck with him because they blamed Meghan for isolating him and cutting him off from his friends and family. I wonder why Harry might have decided that they weren't great friends to have. If, in the face of a smear campaign, right, in the face of him making decisions as an adult, they continue to blame his wife, right? They put all that onto Meghan. I wonder why he might have thought, you know what, maybe these aren't great people. Like, maybe not. Let's be real here, come on. Oh, he hasn't done anything to help himself and they just see him as completely lost. Not real friends then. You know, oh, he hasn't done anything to help himself, he's completely lost. Yeah, you talk to the papers about that. If it was a real friend, you would be talking to Harry about that, right? You'd be offering your support. This is just common sense. And it's all this bullying narrative that everyone's fed up with Harry. Nobody likes Harry. Nobody likes any of them. Just so you know, in case, you know, they're worried because there is a support base for them, right? But they're trying to trick the British people into thinking everyone hates them, and they want Harry and Meghan to see that. They want them to feel like everyone hates them. Harry himself referred to the fact that William regards him as deluded, but that sentiment also seems to be shared by those in what he once referred to as his circle of trust. Yeah, I mean, the word narcissistic also creeps into a lot of conversations about the couple. Yeah, probably when Camilla's there and present, she's probably sneaking it in so she can use it. But right, so I'm sorry. So this was once Harry's circle of trust, and they are now talking to Camilla Tominey and the Telegraph. How is Harry the villain here? That was a circle of trust who has broken his trust to go and talk to the Telegraph, and they haven't even put their name to it. Right? If you have something to say, at least say it, right? Say it to the person. Use your own voice and your own face. And this is a criticism I always see of Harry and Meghan, but it's so ridiculous. People act like they're these sinister people, you know, doing stuff behind the scenes. But everything they have said has come from them, right? It's them or their spokesperson. They're not using palace sources. Everything they've said, Harry said this himself. He has said it. Right or wrong, it's coming from his mouth. Yet they're always presented as the untrustworthy people. What sort of a world was this that they were living in? The word narcissistic creeps into a lot of conversations about the couple. That doesn't surprise me because these are people who don't understand boundaries and consent. Right? So often, again, it's projection. So you have people who themselves are extremely narcissistic, who are extremely abusive. They then turn it around on the victim, right? Oh, they're making it all about them because they have boundaries and they want empathy. And what? They're not entitled to that. Like, I should be able to treat them however I want. You know, and then you often get the victim being blamed, right? Being smeared as narcissistic. Watch how that happens whenever an abuse victim comes forward. And it's like, oh, it's all about you all the time. And it's like, no, actually, yeah. In this instance, it is all about them because they were a victim and they're talking about their experience. So, and we know that some people can't handle that because it has to be about them all the time. So when someone comes forward about an actual issue, especially a friend, to me, that's warning signs that people are tired of it. If your friend has been abused and hurt and you're thinking about how narcissistic they are to be thinking about it, like, they shouldn't be your friends. Ever. According to one former military colleague, no one in the forces has got any time for him at all, which is such a shame because he was hugely popular. You can blame Meghan, but he's brought a lot of it on himself. Wow. Okay, and not talking of narcissistic behaviour. One colleague says no one in the forces has got any time for him. Why is this one random person who won't even put their name out there, like, saying that nobody cares about him? Is that not narcissistic? Right, speak for yourself. And first of all, I'm not even convinced this is real. It could be made up because this person isn't named. It's an absolute lie to say that the forces don't have time for him. If you look at Harry's work on Invictus Games, if you look at veterans, there is a lot of support for Harry. It's just a lie. While fully supportive of Spare, the media-savvy Duchess let it be known she's raised gentle concerns about whether it was the right move. As a source said at the time, is this the way she would have approached things? Possibly not. But she will always back him and would never have got involved in promoting such a personal project. This was about his own life, his own journey, and his own perspective. The media-savvy Duchess. Let's look at that. Again, we've got Kate rebranding herself every week. Right? But she's the media-savvy Duchess. I'm sorry, if she was this media-savvy Duchess, you would be seeing... Well, actually, let's not say media-savvy. Let's say manipulative and corrupt, right? If she was that person in this system, she would not be being smeared, would she? She'd be on the front of all the magazines in a positive manner. That would show a successful manipulator who was working the system. The very fact that she's being smeared makes that not a thing, right? So again, she raised gentle concerns about whether it was the right move, and a source said that it's not the way she would approach things, but, you know, she supported him all the way. And they're presenting this like it's a bad thing. So they're trying to imply that, oh, you know, they didn't agree on it and it was a terrible thing. No. I mean, I don't know the validity of this source anyway, but just from what we even have here, does that really sound unhealthy to anyone? Being like, you know, it's not how I would do it, but this is your story. I'm here to back you, what you need. You know, we're different people. I would deal with things differently, but I love you and I'm here to support you and I'm with you all the way. Like, how is that unhealthy? Why is that being spun as unhealthy? Like, it makes me so angry. And also, you know, she would never have got involved in promoting such a personal project. Yes, because she's not this narcissistic egomaniac that everyone pretends she is. Like, in the article itself, everything here shows that she's not that person. You know, if she was, she would be taking ownership of his life and his journey and his story. She's not done that. She's not done that. Okay, but with speculation about plans for her own memoir, the Duchess will want to avoid any more negative publicity, diminishing the Archewell brand after the couple's approval ratings have fallen to near Duke of York levels. Okay, the speculation about plans for her own memoir. I mean, I bet Camilla's scared. I bet you Camilla Tominey is not looking forward to that. She's not looking forward to it. We know Meghan is intelligent. We know Meghan is articulate. She is... I don't mean media savvy in a manipulative way, but she's savvy in terms of dynamics, right? She's lived outside of that toxic system. She has dealt with this in a way that I don't even know how she's managed to do it. I imagine that if and when Meghan puts a memoir out, it will be very illuminating. And they must be scared about that. Honestly, they must be very, very worried because they've tried to rattle her and they've not yet done it. Also, you know, the Duchess will want to avoid any more negative publicity, diminishing the Archewell brand. Right, first of all, like, she doesn't care. She's not doing it for you, Camilla. She's not doing it for journalists like you, and this is why they're so angry, because Meghan does not care. Meghan isn't doing anything she's doing for their benefit, or even to spite them, and that's what makes them so angry, because that's abuse. Right? It's about power and control. And they're desperately trying to act like, oh, you know, she's doing this or she's not doing this because she's afraid of us, you know. Oh, she doesn't want to annoy us because she might diminish her brand. She doesn't care. She does not care. She doesn't need your validation. And that's the crux of the issue, isn't it? That's why they're so angry. She doesn't need the validation. If her relaunch doesn't go to plan, however, a blame game is likely to follow. And as someone who once worked for the couple noted, when you're that angry with the world, it leaves little time for romance. Okay, wow. If her relaunch doesn't go to plan, again, I keep saying this, Kate Middleton is openly relaunching herself over and over again. So she's saying that, you know, if that doesn't work, then a blame game is likely to follow. And this is Camilla Tominey, in my opinion, thinking, oh dear, I think I might get the blame because I have openly been pretty awful. I'm not going to look good here, so I've got to smear in advance. I've got to protect myself by saying, oh, you know, it's a blame game. Sure, she might blame me, but that's what she does, you know, I'm calling it. It's a way of feeling a little bit of power still, right? It's thinking, well, I can just say I knew she'd do this, you know, she's out there blaming everybody. You know, all the blame games likely to follow, and it might fall on me, but that's just what she's like. This is someone preempting and thinking, oh dear, I'm a little bit out of my depth here with someone like Meghan. Oh no. How's that going to look for me? And as someone who once worked for the couple noted, when you're that angry with the world, it leaves little time for romance. And look, this is hilarious because these people are so angry and bitter, right? They just don't recognise that's what they are. But another thing is anger being presented as a bad thing. If you're angry about injustice and mistreatment of others, anger can be a beautiful and good thing and a force for change. Now, obviously, it depends what you do with your anger. If you're using your anger at injustice to try and fix the injustice, that is a very, very good thing to do. And it's ridiculous when they say when you're angry with the world, it leaves little time for romance. I'm sorry, marginalised groups, oppressed groups are angry at the world and have a right to be angry at the way things are. And they have a right to stand up against them, and other people should stand with them and speak up, right? It doesn't mean that they're incapable of romance. And in fact, isn't love giving you the strength to say that this is something worth fighting for? You know, I'm angry because I know things can be better, and I don't want bad things to happen to other people. Anyone with an ounce of common sense, looking at the world as it is today, with the huge poverty, with what the tabloids are doing, with sexism, with racism, with homophobia, all these different things, anyone normal should be angry with the world. It doesn't make them a killjoy. It doesn't mean they're incapable of love or incapable of joy. But that's how they're trying to frame this, and it's tying into a wider context of making out that, you know, woke people, you know, social justice warriors and snowflakes, they are just bitter, nasty people. When in fact the truth is, those people are standing against injustice because of love, right? Because of joy, because of hope, because of knowing that things can be better for people, and we can make things better in the generations that come after us. That's an act of love. And look how they're turning that around, right? It's just quite remarkable, honestly. Anyway, thank you so much for staying with me for this long article, and I'll see you really soon. Love you loads. Bye.